With that traffic congestion still a problem, get ready for a lose-lose, because there's a good chance it's about to get more expensive to take public transit in Boston, too. The MBTA floated a proposal last week to raise prices on the T by more than 6%. That means, if approved by the T's management board, bus fares would go up 10 cents a ride, subway fares 15 cents, and commuter train tickets by up to 75 cents each way. Monthly passes would also cost between $5.50 and $90 more, depending on your route. The agency says the hikes are needed to pay for the fixes that will make the T smoother, more reliable, and more attractive to users. But Boston City Councilor Michelle Wu says there's a better way to boost ridership. In a recent Boston Globe op-ed, she proposed the city forget the fare hikes and make the T free instead. Councilor Michelle Wu joins me now. Nice to see you.
Thanks,
along with former Secretary of Transportation James Aloisi, a contributor to Commonwealth Magazine, founding partner of the Pemberton Square Group. Good to see you both. And by the way, we should say we have also invited current Transportation Secretary Stephanie Pollack to join us several times over the past few months. Each time her office says they'll get back to us. We are still waiting and hope she'll come. Why'd you propose this?
Look, we should be doing every possible thing we can to increase ridership. The more people are choosing to ride the T, the fewer cars are on the road. That means less traffic. That means cleaner air. And all the reports at all levels are now saying we're running out of time to deal with the environment and with traffic.
Was this a serious proposal, or one just to get a conversation going about the whole issue about T ridership? I don't mean that in a pejorative way. But I mean, did you want to get a debate going as you have, or is this something you see within the realm of even distant reality?
Anything that we can marshal the political will to do is within the realm of reality. This is something that a lot of cities around the world are doing, and that in Boston isn't that much of a stretch to say, here's a real barrier. We need to do everything we can to get more people on the T. This matters, and this would make a difference. And if we're aiming for that, then we don't get stuck saying, is it 6% hike, 9% hike? It's what can we do to get closer?
What do you think of the notion? One of the things she argues is pretty persuasive to me, Councilor Wu, in her piece is, right to public education, we were first. Right to open space with parks, we were first. Right to public libraries, sharing information, we were first. Why not right to mobility for everybody, regardless of their ability to pay?
Not going to question it. Look, Councilor Wu has been an ally to transportation advocates.
Oh, there's
like
a however
myself.
coming, I can tell.
There is a however coming. So, look, I appreciate that at some point having free fares is a goal that people would like to achieve. My view is this. We've got about a 40% fare box ratio here, meaning fares pay for about 40% of the costs. You've got to figure out how to make that up. That's not...
What's that, 700, 800 million?
700, 800 million. Yeah. It's a lot of money. So we've got to figure out how to make that up. I'm in the mode these days of saying, first thing we got to do is we've got to make the T more reliable, more convenient, more connected.
Isn't Charlie Baker doing that, by the way? I think by 2020-something, 23, all new red and orange line cars, the T going into Medford and Centerville. You're shaking your head
It's
now?
not happening fast enough. Look, we just had a board meeting today. The councilor was there. I was there. There was a reversal, a good reversal, and approval of connecting the red and blue lines by the Fiscal Management Control Board. The secretary went out of her way to say, don't get too happy about this because we still have to find revenue. We need net new revenue in the system in order for the T to have the resources to do all of what's necessary, and they don't have those resources today.
Where does this money come from, assuming that your idea is the right ultimate goal?
So as Jim is saying, we need to figure out where we're getting more revenue sustainably for things that are very important. And I'm saying, on top of that, it would be just a little bit more to get us to the point where there are no financial barriers for people.
It's almost $1 billion a year. It's not just a little
so
bit.
the part about the chunk that comes from fares is about $660 million. Bus and subway make up about $430 million. So that's 20% of the T's budget. It's doable if we wanted to. We've been talking about congestion pricing. We could talk about gas tax. There's lots of choices. If this is something we're serious about, we can figure out ways to get closer.
The governor's asked about, by the way, whether he consider raising the gas tax to offset the fare hike. Here's what Governor Baker had to say.
The biggest and best thing the T can do to improve its performance and to get people to ride it is to do a better job of being reliable and dependable and predictable.
You know, a lot of people, including me here, have talked about how the governor has sort of come out of his shell on the tax front.
Right.
And for whether it's the grand bargain parental and medical leave or this deeds excise for climate change. Why is why are both he and Stephanie Pollack, Secretary of Transportation, and the governor suggesting, unlike what I think you think, that there's enough money in the transportation system to do what needs to be done?
I can't speak for why they think that. I can tell you for sure that's not the case, right? And I can tell you a few other things. Number one, we need net new revenue. Number two, if we don't need net new revenue, the Secretary today would have said something different than what she said. Number two, the governor's proposing that Massachusetts, along with, I believe, 12 other states along the East Coast, get together for what's called RGGI for transportation. That's a carbon tax. We're going to see over $100 million of revenue probably as soon as next year. We need to commit that money, which hasn't been done yet. We have to commit that money to sustainable mobility. Second thing is we need to have a trigger. The next time or this time, anytime you raise MBTA fares, there should be an automatic trigger that proportionally raises the gas tax and fees on Uber and Lyft at the same time.
Well, you know how the public felt about those automatic triggers. They repealed the inflation adjustment on the gas tax. That was the point you made in the Globe story on the fare increase. It seems to me, beyond us not approaching this fare-free future, that we're going in exactly the wrong direction.
That's right.
The T itself said that this 6% fare would lead to a 1.3% decline in ridership, and then there was the notion, well, maybe that'll be offset a little. But essentially, they're doing that. Well, as the point you made in the Globe article, they're not making the congestion-causing things any more expensive. So, if anything, people are going to switch, and we'll have more congestion. Is that? I mean, it seems like we're going in the wrong direction. No?
Right now, transportation planning is happening in a vacuum, separate from climate planning, separate from our economic realities of how much traffic is choking the greater Boston area. At some point, we have to be honest with ourselves and say, this can't go on this way. We need to figure out how to move more people.
When you wrote your op-ed, other than people like him saying, I like the concept, however, have you gotten any better than howevers from any people in power in this city?
So I actually heard from several folks from the State House and various
like elected kinds of people from the State House?
Who have said, this is agree with the concept, agree with the goal. Here's how we can talk about how to get closer to it. But across the board, there are things we can do together, making the fares free for students and young people, for seniors.
I mean, as a transitional kind of thing.
As a transitional thing, bus lines where majority of residents are low income, we should do that today.
Are we thinking boldly enough on transportation? It seems to me, and if Secretary Pollack was here, I'd give her an opportunity. Sure. We're an incremental kind of thing. Now, they might say, we're getting all new cars. That's not incremental at all, Jim. That's dramatic change. Are we being bold enough on this front?
No, we're not being bold.
100,000 ride shares a day in Boston. Mayor Walsh has said, let's up the fee, but he needs State House approval.
If we were being bold, we'd be doing a bunch of things. We'd be enacting into law regional ballot initiatives, allowing communities to come together and impose carbon fees or parking fees or whatever.
Like they did in L.A.
Like they do in L.A., like they do in Colorado and other places. So we'd be doing that, number one. We'd be imposing fees on TNCs that actually assess their impacts. Number two, we'd be talking about issues like transit connectivity in ways that we're not today. We made a big stride earlier today. We need to do more. We would be asking people to think about sustainable mobility in ways that many other places have embraced. We're not there yet.
You have the last 15 seconds, Councilor.
We are running out of time on this, and transportation, people's physical mobility, is directly related to the economic mobility of our region, of each family. This is a barrier across the board, and we need to get closer to empowering people to get to opportunity.
Jim, thanks a lot. Appreciate your time. Councilor, it's good to see you too. Thanks so much.